the ego has mislabeled reality. And that mislabeling has caused its love to become partial. God is love, but those who are now responsible for the destruction on the phenomenal plane are in a state of love. But what they love is money, power, hegemony, control, absolute enslavement of the other, so they have undone their bondage to the other. At least that's what they think they can accomplish. But it can't be accomplished because one's own dream always leaves out the real, because a dream is unreal. And the real will always intervene to awaken one. And that's the end of the dream and also the new beginning. So that's the moment that we are in. But you can defeat your demons individually only by one mode of attack. And that is to want nothing. And to want nothing means not even to want the defeat of the demons. Because the choreography of the relationship of the light and dark forces is always directed from on high by the benevolent intelligence that is directing the entire theodrama. And everything that seems evil will lead to good. And yet, on the phenomenal plane, the road to hell is paved by good intentions. So evil is created by good, and good comes out of evil. And it's this paradox that we must find a way to integrate. And only then can we be beyond our own victimhood to the superego judgments against our own inner evil as defined by the superego. So, to achieve that level of realization, one must understand and accept that everything that happens, everything, is the will of God. You think you have a separate will from God, but you don't. That belief that you have a separate will from that of the supreme intelligence, which is the supreme ultimate goodness beyond goodness, the only access that we have is the acceptance that our belief in our separateness is the veil that must be removed. And the illusion that we have a separate will, which is the ego's belief, creates the illusion of a kind of freedom to decide things at the ego level. But it's never real because the ego is a puppet. And it's the puppeteer who actually makes those decisions. But when the veil has been removed, the puppet and the puppeteer, the dreamer and the dream, are realized as one, not two. That's the meaning of Advaita. But Advaita always appears as Dvaita. The not two always appears as two. The world is constructed out of binaries. As we said last time, there is the quantum wave function binary of 1 and 0, right? And there is the qualium wave function of yin and yang. They are on two separate and yet always harmonious tracks. Because one is always the projection of the other and the other is the introjection of the one. But they are different. Evil could be defined as the confusion between yin and yang and 1 and 0. And I'll explain why that is. But first, let's understand this. When you realize that all is the will of God, and whatever your ego labels an event as, oh, this was bad, why did this bad karma happen? This is good, what did I do to deserve this? As soon as there is a label or a name put on anything, then there has been a veil over the perfection of God that has no binary. But to get to that, you have to know the third language of God. Remember, we said there are 3 languages. The third language can only be learned in silence. It's the language of silence, but the constituent elements of that language is the relationship of the part to the whole. That's the third binary. And it's that third binary that leads to the salvation of consciousness. So, when you realize it's all the will of God, karma can no longer reach you, because karma is a label for something that isn't real. And there is a shift, a psychological and spiritual shift that happens in one when they have reached this recognition of the non-duality of good and evil. And that is the shift from karma to charitra. Right? We've talked about this term charitra many times, but perhaps we haven't defined it well enough. We could say it's the performance of a sage, the way that the sage who is in that state lives life in freedom without suffering. Because the illusion of duality has been erased. And it's that that enables one to turn Maya into Leela. And everything becomes a joyous play. And a play that brings about ongoing, continual growth from the finite to infinity. And therefore is endless. And so what it enables us to do in that state of freedom from a dialectic of values, of a thesis, oh, well, this isn't good enough, antithesis, that's better, but still, no, I need a synthesis. But then even that is never enough. The dialectic, until it ends in the absolute realization that it's meaningless to speak about what is good or what is better, because there is only one absolute real that is producing the mind's capacity to be confused by the different binaries.